Not far from the north shore of Lake Superior and south of the Kennebec, here lay a paradise lost in the heart of a wilderness world, and in that paradise a little corner of hell. That was what the girl had called it once upon a time. That was before Peter had come to Brittany, her life. But the hell was still here. It was spring, and such a spring as had not come to the Canada North Country in many years. Until 3 days ago, it had been warm rains, and signs that the sun had filled the land with the golden warmth of summer. Just under Gradus Ridge lay the paradise, a plain that reached down to the edge of Clearwater Lake, with clams of poplars and white beaches in a green sea of grass. The flowers rose up out of the plain, and already here were nests in the tree. In the edge of a clump of the trees lay Peter. The love of adventures was in him, and today, for the first time, he had gone alone to the edge of Clearwater Lake, half a mile away. Boldly, he had run up and down the white beach, where the girl's footprints still remained in the sand. Peter was 3 months old. Today they had gone on a trip alone, and a great courage and great desire were born in him. So, on his way back, he had pushed in the edge of a great clump of the trees, and lay on his belly. At last he stood up on his feet. He was not a beautiful pup, as Peter Clubfoot, as Jolly Roger, Mr. K, who lived near the big swamp among cedar trees, had named his when he gave Peter to the girl. His ears were big. His eyes were big. His tail was knotted, and his legs were clumsy, with huge feet in the end of them. 300 or 400 years away rose a spiral of white smoke, and with the sight of the smoke Peter had also the chopping of eggs. It made him shiver, and yet he went toward it. He sensed danger whenever he heard the sound of the eggs. For a while it was associated with the cat-like, thin-faced man with the red bristle on his upper lip and the one eye that never opened but was always closed. And Peter feared his one-eyed man more than anything. However, he did not creep on his belly, but stood up boldly on his crooked legs and looked ahead of him. His was a cabin made of logs, and as he looked forth his head suddenly jumped. It was a girl, and not the man who was using the eggs today. At the big wood pile he saw the symbol of her brown curls in the sun, and her white face. Yes, it was turned for an instant towards the cabin. In his gladness he wanted to leap out, but the voice he had learned to drink held his back. A man had come out of the cabin handsome and a woman. The man was a long, lean, cadaverous-faced creature, and Peter knew that he devil was in him as he stood here at the cabin door. His breath was heavy with whiskey. Tobacco juice stained the corner of his mouth, and his one eye gleamed with an animal-like joy as he nodded towards the girl with the shining curls. Money, they have put 750 for her when he gets his money from the government, and he already paid me $50, he said. It will help pay for her food these last 10 years, and maybe when it comes to the wedding, I can get from his 1,000. The woman made no answer. The man as he stood here was whisked and cold. The woman was bent and broken. In her face here was nothing of his living soul. Her eyes were dull, her head burned out. Yet even Peter, as quiet as a mouse where he lay, sensed the difference between them. He had seen the girl and this woman sobbing in each other's arms, and often he had crawled to the woman's feet, and occasionally her hand had touched him, and frequently she had given him things to eat. But it was seldom he heard her voice when the man was near. The man was bitten off a chunk of black tobacco. Suddenly he asked, "How old is she, Liz?" And the woman answered in a strange and husky voice, 17. The 12th day of this month. The man spat. Molly, out of the pay 1,000. He is crazy about her. He will pay. Chet. The woman's voice rose. Chet, isn't right. The man laughed. He opened his mouth there wide until his yellow fangs gleamed in the sun, and the girl with the edge paused for a moment in her walk, and turned her head straight on the two before the cabin door. Right, said the man. Right? That is what you have been preaching me these last 10 years about whiskey running. But it hasn't made you stop selling whiskey, has it? And I guess isn't a word what will come between morning and me not in morning gets his 1,000. Suddenly he turned upon her with a hand half raised to strike, and if you whisper a word to her, I will break every bone in your body. So help me God, you understand? You won't say anything to her? The woman shouldn't drop it loud. I won't say anything, Jed, I promise. The man dropped his abandoned hands with a harsh grunt. I will kill you if you do, he warned. The girl had dropped her axe and was coming toward them. She was a slim, bird-like creature. She was dressed in a faced calico. Her stockings were spun with patches, and his shoes were old and worn out on the toes. But to Peter, she was the most beautiful thing in the world. Her eyes were as blue as violets. Her hair was falling about her shoulders and nearly to her waist in a mess of brown curls. But the straight hairs began to show its mark. In the blue of your eyes was the look of one who was never free of haunting visions. Her cheeks were pale and a little too thin. She faced the man a little out of the reach of his arm. "I told you never again to raise your hand to strike her," she growled in a fierce little voice. Her blue eyes were flaming with hatred at him. "If you hit her once more, sometimes it's going to happen. If you want to hit anyone, hit me. I can stand it. But look at her. You've broken her shoulder. You've clipped her, and you out the knife." The man advanced half a step. His eyes was burning ferociously. Deep down in him, Peter felt something he had never felt before. For the first time in his life, he had no desire to run away from the man. Something rose up from his little chest and grew in his throat, until it was a babish snarl so low that no human eyes couldn't hear it, and in his hidden place his needle-like fangs gleamed. But the man did not strike. He didn't grip his finger in this silken mess on Nada's hair. He laughed, and if something was shocking him, and turned away. "You haven't seen me hit her anymore, have you, Nada?" he said, and disappeared around the end of the cabin. The girl laid a hand on the woman's arm. Her eyes softened, but she was trembling. "I will told him what happened, and he wouldn't dare hit you anymore," she said. "If he does, I will end him. I will bring the police. I will show them the places where he hides his whiskey. I will put him in jail if I die for it." The woman's bony hands clutched, and one of Nada's. "No, no, you mustn't do that," she pleaded. "He was good to me once a long time ago, Nada. It isn't that is bad. It is the whiskey. You mustn't tell on him, Nada. You mustn't. He can share me by the hair if he wants to, but if he hits you..." She drew a deep breath and also passed around the end of the cabin. For a few moments Peter listened. Then he saw Nada walking softly towards the break in the bridge. He followed so quiet that she was through the brick and was making her way among the mast of rock along the further foot of this bridge before she discovered him. With a glad cry she caught him up in her arm and hugged him against her breast. "Peter, Peter, where have you been?" she demanded. "I thought something had happened to you, and I've been hunting for you, and so has Roger. I mean, Mr. Jolly Roger." Peter had a ticket hand, and he held limply until his mistress came to a thick little clump of parsnips hidden among the rocks. It was a sacred place. Here Nada had made her little bower, and she sat down now over a thick rung of basement broad. A new light had come into her eyes, and they were seated like stars. But he knew that something had happened, and he tried hard to understand. "Peter, he was here again today, Mr. Ragnar. Mr. Roland Roger," she cried softly. The pink in her cheeks was growing bright now. "And he told me I was pretty. She drew a deep breath and looked out of the rocks to the valley and the back forest bared, and your fingers under Peter's armpits tightened until he grunted. And he asked me if he could touch my hair, and when I said yes, he just put his hand on it, and if he was afraid, and he said it was beautiful, and that I must take wonder care of it. Peter, so I'll throbbing in your throat. Peter, he said he didn't want to do anything wrong to me, that he would cut off his hand first. He said that, and then he said if I didn't think it was wrong, he'd like to kiss me. She handed Peter up close to her again, and I told him I guessed it wasn't wrong because I liked him, and nobody else had even kissed me. And Peter, he didn't kiss me, and when he went away, he looked so strange, and something inside me has been singing ever since. I don't know what it is, Peter, but is it here? And then, after a moment, she whispered, Peter, I wish Mr. Jolly Ron would take us my way. She set Peter down beside her and looked over the valley to the black forest, in the head of which was Jolly Roger's habit. It is funny, he doesn't want anybody to know he's here, isn't it, Peter? She said. He is living in the old cabin where Indian Tom died last winter, and I've promised not to tell anyone. He said it is a great secret, and that only you and I and the missioner over at Sacred Creek know anything about it. I'd like to go over and clean up the cabin for him. Peter, beginning to nose among the rocks, did not see the flash of fire that came slow into the blue of the girl's eyes. She was looking at her red shoes and the patch stocking and the poverty on her faded dress, and her fingers cleaning in her lap. I'd do it. I'd go away somewhere and never come back. If it wasn't for you, she breathed. She dressed me like a witch most of the time, but Jack Waggett made you that way. I can remember. Suddenly, she jumped up, and her hair streamed out in a sad-fired couldn't I guessed of vines that come up the valley. Someday, I kill him. She cried to the black forest across the bay. Someday I